Greetings, fellow flight simmer, and welcome to the reaction review with me, GripperSim. This week, I'm going to give, at last, my preview of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Now, the feature discovery series have kind of fizzled out, and they're just giving us little bits of news every week. Now, I'm not a journalist. I don't do the news, so I'm really looking forward to this coming out because I will certainly be ramping up my output of footage to YouTube on Flight Simulator 2020 when it comes out. But anyway, that's another day's work. So first of all, I want to examine the top 10 features that you will see in Microsoft 2020. But wait, who am I to present a preview of Flight Simulator 2020? Well, I can say for sure that I've had every single version of Flight Simulator since the first version was released in 1982. 1982. Oh God, I just after realising that was 38 years ago. 38 years ago. And I've had every version. Oh my God, what a wasted childhood. What have I been doing with my life? Oh, okay, let's just continue. So anyway, the first one was Flight Simulator Uno number 1. It was actually called Sublogic, but then Microsoft bought it. So yeah, due to this terrible affliction I have had with flight simulators, and this indeed, it's what's an addiction essentially, I eventually obtained a commercial aviation license from the European Aviation Safety Agency, and I have been instructing pilots, both private and commercial, for over 16 years. So I hope I know a little about the difference between a flight simulator and real life flying, and what indeed makes a good realistic flight simulator in the 21st century. But side note, I must tell you that I have no affiliation with Asobo or Microsoft in any way whatsoever. So just get that out of the way. So what are we looking at? First of all, my 10 points, my 10 features I want to highlight to you are accessibility, aerodynamics, graphics, weather engine, world, the sound, the potential for flight training, scalability, realism, and immersion. Let's start with number 1, accessibility. So who is Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 made for? Well, everyone. Not only, it appears, is it for the hardcore flight sim enthusiast, it's for someone who has never experienced a flight simulator before, and they intend to lure you in with the astonishing graphics. Not just good graphics, but real-world topography. That is to say, so good you can fly over your local city, your local village, or even your own house. More on the graphics coming up. But if you're a newbie, you may say to yourself, I couldn't possibly fly one of those complicated aircraft. It's just too much. Well, Asobo and Microsoft have cunningly included for the first time ever in 38 years the Cessna 152 in the base package. Now, what's a Cessna 152 if you don't know? Well, someone in Microsoft or Asobo have been giving sound advice, as the Cessna 152 is one of the most popular trainer aircraft in the world, and it has been for quite some decades. In fact, 7,584 plus change have been built worldwide, and I can tell you there is at least some in every flight training school. That's worth its salt. The Cessna 152 is favoured in the real world for its flight training due to its simplicity to operate, its simple and easy to grasp flying characteristics, simple design, and its docile performance for new pilots. Not only have they included the Cessna 152 for newbies, but the Cessna 172 and the DA40, which are also heavily sought after aircraft in the flight training community around the world. So what am I getting at? Well, I'm getting at the point that Microsoft are fully aware that they want the biggest market possible. So they're going to look for newbies, people who have never flown Flight Simulator before at all. And I can tell they're going there because of the menu system, of the fact that you can just pop in an aircraft on the beginning of the runway, everything's switched on and set up for you, the engine's running, and all you have to do is add power. You can use a keyboard to fly it, you can use your Xbox controller to fly it, because, well, it will be out for the Xbox as well, by the way, so that even confirms that they want newbies to fly Flight Simulator, and you can fly it very, very easily. But the beauty about Microsoft Flight Simulator is the very thin layer at the top. You get up, you fly, you try to land. If you're completely new, you figure it out, you have a bit of fun, you fly around. But then as you get better at it and you want a bit more depth, it is there. There's so much depth to flight simulators. It's there if you want it. So you won't be a newbie forever. Furthermore, there will be a simplified tutorial system for you within the flight simulator. People often say to me, oh, I wouldn't be able for Flight Simulator. It's far too complicated for me. I'd love to try it though, but sure, I'd be no good at it, you know, so they don't bother. But look if you don't start badly, you'll never start. So start badly. But that's how everybody starts, isn't it? Start badly and enjoy it. And that's how that works. So it's available for everyone. That's what I'm trying to say. So that concludes number 1, accessibility. And yes, it is accessible to everybody. And that's how it's designed. So don't worry, this won't happen to you.
The stewardess said...
Next up, number 2, aerodynamics. Probably the most important aspect of a flight simulator, shouldn't you think? Okay, so the biggest interaction with an aircraft is the air mass around it. It's the atmosphere and the air's characteristics that interact with the aircraft that allows it to fly. Since flight simulations obviously depend on realistic physics engines to replicate flight characteristics, I feel this section is actually very, very important. So here's what Asobo have said they have implemented in Flight Simulator 2020. They have completely reworked the aerodynamics from scratch and have actually simulated the airflow, including temperature, pressure, humidity, etc., over the whole planet. More on the weather coming up. This, of course, interacts with the simulated surfaces of the Earth and the aerofoils of each individual aircraft. In the past, Microsoft simulated one point on the aircraft and a table lookup system, and the lookup system told the aircraft how to behave. This made the aircraft feel like it was flying on rails. This time, they have 1,000 fully simulated surfaces mapped all over the airframe, which interacts with the simulated atmosphere. This means that the coefficient of lift and drag can be closely replicated with the real physics of flight. I think of it as a digital wind tunnel. Each of these 1,000 points will interact with the simulated atmosphere, meaning, as in real life, if you, say, get a gust of wind from one side while you're flying at the wrong airspeed, you're in danger of getting a sudden wing drop from only one wing. Well, it's actually one wing, but one side. This means, unlike older versions of Microsoft Flight Simulator, with all of this put together, the simulation will not feel any more like it's running in rails. It also means that the aircraft will operate more fluently and realistically in stalls, deep stalls, spins, and all phases of flight within the simulation. This is great for aerodynamics. They say you can even do realistic inverted spins. Obviously, the weather will now have a big hand in your simulation experience, which we're going to talk about shortly now after graphics. Aerodynamics is obviously the most important factor for a flight simulator. So from what Asobo have said, it's looking like it's going to be one of the best physics engines. Will it beat the best? Will it beat Laminar's X-Plane 11 at its own game? Well, we'll see when I review the full product when it comes out later this year. But I can tell you, as a real-life aviator, from what they're telling us, this is going to be a very realistic flight simulation. And the best Microsoft one so far. Now, with regards to the aerodynamics, I'm pretty pleased so far, and I'm giving you my thumbs up, if you like. Next up, graphics. Well, I don't need to spend a lot of time here because you have already seen the quality of the graphics, and a picture tells 1,000 words. But in my view, the sim will have the best graphics ever in a flight simulator. I mean, look at New York here. Look at the lighting. And the sea and Paris, the clouds, all of this comes together to make it absolutely incredible, and it looks truly next generational. Satellite data from Bing Maps and intelligent algorithms have mapped the entire Earth in the most detailed graphical reproduction of our planet Earth for a flight simulation. The graphics of the aircraft look a little bit toy-like, I have to say. That's because they're always perfectly spotless without the slightest blemish. But I'm sure third-party providers will fix this and make them look a little bit aged, because they're never that clean. Look at this. Look at the jet. Look at the Airbus. They're not. What? It's too clean. It's like it's just come out of the showroom. But Microsoft also are using 2 petabytes of data to bring us such detailed graphics for the whole world and the aircraft, cleverly using the internet instead of our hard disks. Yay! But can your computer run this advanced simulation? Well, they say yes, and here are some of the published specifications. You can pause here if you want and just examine these specifications. They have minimum spec, recommended spec, and ideal spec, which is the highest. So they have gone for the broad market, as I suspected. Of course they would, because they want everyone to play Flight Simulator 2020. Now, if you're at the low end, you may have to tone your graphics down a little bit, or otherwise it'll be choppy. If you're at the high end, you can have everything to ultra. So this is in the eye of the beholder. And let's see when it comes out. If it does actually run smooth in these specifications. Because if it doesn't, you know I'll be on it. And I will not hold any punches. But the specs look reasonable. Not only that, but Flight Simulator will also be running on the new next generation Xbox console, and I'll be looking forward to reviewing that for sure. So what do I think as a long-time simmer and a professional flight instructor about these graphics? Well, these graphics are not just about the eye candy for me, they're about accurate flight navigation, as we will see in section 7, potential for flight training. Next up, let's have a look at number 4, the weather engine. The most important thing to think about before you fly in the real world is the weather. This brings a very big risk factor in real life. In small aircraft, especially in VFR rules, that's visual flight rules, where you should remain clear of cloud and in sight of the ground so you don't get lost in the clouds. Well, because you can't see your navigation references on the ground. Or worse still, try to descend and crash into a hill or a mountain after entering cloud. Even more common, as you can't see out the window, how do you tell if you're turning, climbing or descending without any visual reference from the aircraft window? So how do you get out of this terrible situation? All of this will become very relevant in the realistic weather engine in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, I feel. So for the first time, we will have the most realistic weather engine in a flight simulator. When I say realistic, I mean if you choose, you can actually fly the actual, real, live weather. This will introduce you to a whole world of adventure. I know other simulations have done something like this in the past, but Asobo have brought in entirely new elements to the table, making flight simming in actual weather and adventure. So what's new here? Well, volumeric clouds and icing. You can actually see the icing slowly build up around the aircraft, and as that happens, the weight of the aircraft increases slowly, affecting its ability to fly. Well, because of the weight the ice adds to the aircraft. How do you remedy this situation? Should you descend lower where the air is warmer so the ice will melt? Will this lead you through clouds and then into a hill? Does your aircraft have anti-icing on it? And more adventures. They have also a new night engine. You will notice that the light from the streets below reflect into the clouds. This is due to the atmospheric simulation. Yes, the atmosphere is also simulated. All light forces in the simulation interact with each other, giving you such a feeling of flying in real life. Rainbows are now possible.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Woo! Oh!
Even thunder and rain is realistically replicated. Asobo say that each raindrop is displayed in the cockpit depending on the speed of the aircraft and takes into account the thrust of the engine and other factors such as the amount of rainfall, etc. No more add-ons for rain effects here. Fog, another one that we've all been missing. I've never seen fog on a flight simulator before. For the first time ever, you will see rain shafts extending from a cloud. I've never seen this before in a flight simulator either. It's just insane. The water is absolutely beautifully rendered and its swell increases with the wind just like in real life, and due to the atmospheric engine it will change colour according to the environment and day or night. The clouds will have realistic formation patterns and shape and for the first time have smooth volumeric effects when transitioning in and out of them. Clouds also affect the light and cast shadows in each other as well as the ground. Also, if you don't want the real life weather and you want your own custom weather, you can change it on the fly. That's to say, there's no loading time. This actually changes as you want it. As you change the sliders from the menu, you will see the weather change to your liking before your eyes. I feel that this is certainly the most comprehensive weather engine ever made for a home PC, but from a professional point of view, I have to say that the entire simulation experience will be changed forever with such realistic reproduction of the weather in a flight simulator. I will be making many Flight Simulator 2020 videos on dangerous weather conditions for our YouTube flight simmers, including tutorials, eye candy videos and adventures, so subscribe now for the madness with me when Microsoft 2020 comes out. I digress once again. Number 5, the world. Well, what do I mean about the world? Well, I mean to say the world we are presented with within Microsoft Flight Simulator, as in the airports, animated wildlife, animated people, seasons, air traffic control, live air traffic and multiplayer capabilities. As you know, the whole world is presented geographically accurately with the use of Bing Maps and other technologies, so look forward to flying over your local area. In any case, we have seen many airports already from the Feature Discovery series to know that the airports that they have modelled are absolutely stunningly fantastic. I would say that all the generated airports that they have done are very much improved in what we've seen before, and there's a great deal of intelligence behind it. But I doubt that they have people working on modelling 37,000 airports. Come on guys, think of all you guys in X-Plane. You know, you spend 20-30 quid in an airport. 37,000? How long is that going to take? Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Now, having said that, they have kind of shown us how they do model the airports, and there is intelligence behind it, so it's kind of automated. But it's not going to necessarily, your local airport isn't going to look exactly like it would in real life, like this airport in Donegal in Ireland. Now, I've been here and it looks exactly like this. So this was hand modelled. It wasn't kind of procedurally kind of generated. Now, I believe there will be a lot of hand-modelled airports in Microsoft 2020. Anyway, regardless of what I said here, all of the airports are going to look absolutely fantastic. But not all 37,000 of them are going to be hand-modelled. So don't, you know, I'm not listening to that. No, I'm not listening to it. It's nonsense. Nonsense! I hype, it's all... I've done marketing. I did marketing, so yeah. Anyway, I'm distracted by this human walking past the screen. They've got people walking around the airport, and I love the life of the airport. There's buses, there's trucks, there's fuel trucks, there's service vehicles. The windsock, of course, as you would expect, works as it would in the real world. They have included some brilliant bush airports, like this one in Lukla, and many others that are actually handmade, I believe. This is one of my favourite airports here in the Netherlands for Shortfield. Also, the gates. You can request gate connection and reconnection if you're departing or arriving, and all the jetways work. The baggage handlers drive up to the airplane, and all of this used to be in add-on territory for X-Plane 11. You had to pay extra for this stuff, or at least download it. It was, you know, add-on, or even worse, microtransactions. But this just comes with Flight Sim 2020. It just does. Like, we had to download better pushback. It just comes with it, with Microsoft. All of this just comes with it. You don't have to download sceneries anymore. Well, you know, we had to download Southern England, just Southern England. And they divided England into 3 parts, so you had to pay for each part anyway. But Microsoft have done a great job, but the whole world is free now. But the airports look absolutely fantastic. They're lively. And by the way, they have real world traffic in the simulation. Not automated traffic, but the actual traffic that is in the real world is brought into the flight simulator. So when you're flying, if you see an airplane on the map, that airplane, let's say the airplane's over Chicago, it's over Chicago in the sim and in the real world. So it integrates your flight into the real world flights, which is just mind-blowing. Which brings me to multiplayer. Multiplayer is very highly featured in Microsoft 2020, they say. You would be able to play online. They call it one shared world. So if I want to play with my friend and take off from London somewhere, he just spawns in that same airport and we go off flying together. Or there can be 10 of us and we can all go flying in the world, which would be actually great for streaming, because I could have a stream and you could all join me and we could all go ballistic and cause havoc in the flight simulator world. So the multiplayer has a great deal of options, and I have to say, from what they say, I can't find any faults with it. I really can't find any faults. It's really, really well done, and it's also integrated with real world traffic. Your TCAS systems will work. You have to keep an eye out for each other. You can do formation flying. You can do all the racing competitions for navigation, etc., etc. So it really is vast for multiplayer, which is great news. If you're wondering about seasons, they have shown us this video, and it's a time-lapse of, an accelerated time-lapse of a snow shower over New York, over Central Park. And that indicates to us that they will have seasons. So that's how they announced it. How they'll implement it, I'm not too sure. But I presume if you change the season in the time and date section in Flight Simulator, it will put the snowy areas where it should be. Now, I'm interested in that clip because it shows winter starting, and I'd love to see these snow showers, but it looks very, very interesting, and I'm really looking forward to that as well. They've also hinted that there will be wildlife, most probably just in Africa, I'm guessing, but there has been reports of birds seen from alpha users. So I wonder if we get bird strikes from time to time. We will see. Number 6, sound. Now, I know you probably think this is a funny one, but flight simulators in the past have paid no attention to the sound, completely disregarding the fact that when you're flight simming, you've got 3 senses you can use. Your eyes for all that eye candy, your hands for your controllers, but that's up to you to what controllers and buttons and switches you buy, and the sound. The sound is pretty damn big in flying in the real world, and they always dismiss the sound out of the box, and it's always up to the third-party developers to put in good sound, and it's only a few developers in recent years that have had any good sound whatsoever. But Microsoft, thankfully, and Asobo have paid attention to this. Have a listen to this. Asobo have gone to great lengths to record every single sound they can think of in their base aircraft packages, including the gear, the flaps, everything. In the real world, most people fail their actual initial aeromedical because of their hearing. That's how important it is. But for us simmers, it has never been done properly in the base package. Microsoft have done a brilliant job, it sounds like. Also, the Doppler effect, listen. And yes, including ambient sounds for every environment. This is what a current gen sim sounds like. A real airplane sounds like this. That's why I think the sound is a top feature in Microsoft 2020. Number 7, potential for actual flight training. Well, this picture here is of a Redbird flight simulator. Now, I know of one in Ireland, and it's not certified though, so you can't actually log your hours. But in America, apparently you can certify them and you can actually log your hours. Now, the fascinating thing you'll find about this particular flight simulator is that it costs $100,000, and the program you're seeing, at least the one I know of in Ireland, is running P3D version 1. P3D, if you don't know, was actually licensed from Microsoft to Lockheed Martin. They licensed out Microsoft Flight Simulator X, yeah, and they call it P3D version 1. Yeah, P3D version 1. So at home, in your Microsoft Flight Simulator, it's not going to be registered for flight training in America anytime soon. I think it takes a couple of years. I don't know, to be honest with you. But I can tell you, with your home flight simulators in general, including X-Plane, FSX, and so on, you can most certainly use your flight simulator as a training aid. Now, why am I specifically interested in Microsoft 2020's flight simulator for flight training at home? Now, when I say flight training at home, I mean use it as a training aid, okay? Well, the graphics, they have the real world. Well, part of your real life training is learning to fly visual flight rules, and you use speed, distance, time. You take off, point your aircraft in a direction, calculate the wind, and you hope to be overhead the next waypoint at a certain time. And you use this item to calculate your headings and your times. So you can actually use your flight computer here to navigate in the real world in Microsoft 2020, because they have the real world in the simulator just as we see it now. Yes, so this is really, really good. Not only that, you can use it for IFR training. I have used this to great effect in X-Plane to fly a DA-42 before a renewal, and he couldn't believe how good I was. Well, I just told him I remembered. Well, in fact, before I went out to do my renewal with the examiner, I was playing Flight Simulator, and I practiced the whole thing with Flight Sim, and I was up to scratch. And my scans were brilliant, everything. So flight simulators are brilliant as a training aid. So it's a potential for a training aid, even more so than any of the other flight simulators, because of the graphics and the detail they've given, and the weather as well. It's a great training aid. Yes, absolutely. It's got a great potential for flight training. It's not going to teach you how to be a real world pilot, but it really helps. Number 8, scalability, or if you like, add-ons. I know, microtransaction city, it's driven me demented for many, many years. So, you buy your flight sim, it looks okay, it's very bare, and you find yourself buying sceneries that are satellite correct, and you spend loads of money on scenery. I spent pathetic amounts in scenery for the channel, and I think I mentioned before, I bought Southern England only, they'd sell it. And then they'd sell the next half of England, and then the top end with Scotland, and you have to pay for England 3 times. It's just ridiculous, all these add-ons. You spend an absolute fortune. No more, it looks like. So stuff it up your other flight simulators, yeah? And we've had enough of this, right? So great job, Microsoft, for giving us the world, okay? So this is great news. So there's no scalability there. Yeah. Air traffic. So for years we've all wanted our airports to look alive. So you buy an add-on for air traffic that does it properly. Yeah, it's another few quid. Brilliant. No more. Stuff it up yours. Microsoft gives us air traffic as part of the simulator. The weather has always been a problem with flight simulators, and we're always buying. I bought a couple of them, and I've never reviewed any of them because they're all crap, right? They've all been a problem, these weather add-ons, and we're all desperate to get the weather. But no more. Stuff it up yours. Microsoft just gives you the weather. It's just there, and it's real life weather, and it looks like in real life. I bought, I'm sure many of you had, add-ons for lighting, because the simulator and the base is a bit dull and dark and grey, and you have to pay for lighting. I know you can get it for free in plugins. Plugins are great, okay, but you still have to deal with adding them on. It just comes well lit, as you can see. There's been add-ons for roads, Real Roads UK, woo, and trees. Trees! You can buy add-ons for trees on other flight simulators, not in Microsoft 2020. So I've got to trick you. There's no real scalability, which is good news for you because you don't have to fork out for it. Okay? So, but however, scalability, in other words, of aircraft, which is very important, okay? Microsoft have shown us some of the aircraft that they're giving us in the base for the base program, but there are many, many other aircraft like that in the world, and everybody wants to fly in a different aircraft. Thankfully, Microsoft had announced that they have hundreds of third-party developers designing different aircraft. So this is good for scalability. So eventually, as time goes on, just like X-Plane and FSX, you'll pretty much be able to buy any airplane you can think of, including historical ones. So this is great news. Also with scalability, the scenery. I would say that they're not going to have every airport in the world exactly like it is in real life. So you will have third-party providers selling you, like hopefully for me, my local airport, which is not a big one, and I don't think that Microsoft will spend much time on it, but I want it to look exactly as it is in real life, and that's the kind of thing I would buy. And I'm sure you have your local favourites as well. So scalability with regards to aircraft, airports, and what else? What else is there? There's nothing else really, which is great because they provided everything as part of the sim for once. So for once, we don't have to worry about buying a whole load of add-ons, which is fantastic news. Scalability with controllers. I would imagine Microsoft will have every single controller compatible with Microsoft 2020. I wouldn't worry about that. If they didn't have every controller compatible with it, they'd be in big trouble, wouldn't they? So come on, it's a big company. They're going to have all the controllers there. So scalability, all I can say about scalability is it's good news. We don't have to buy for bloody loads of add-ons. I just can't believe I brought all those add-ons for extra. Yeah. Number 9, realism. Okay, I'm coming to my conclusions here, but from a real pilot's perspective, I feel this will be the most realistic flight simulator ever for your home computer, or indeed, for that matter, for your next-gen Xbox, although I don't see how you control a 737-800 with an Xbox controller. Can you control a 737 with an Xbox controller? Let me know in the comments. In any case, because of the realistic weather, the world, the aerodynamics, the graphics, the sound, and every other detail I've shown you so far in this video, it's aiming to be the best flight simulator of all time. Not only because it maps the entire Earth accurately, allowing you to fly over any wonder of the world you choose, but it's because it looks like it's set up to allow us to actually learn to fly aircraft and use it as a training aid, especially with regards to the weather. The weather, for me, is the most realistic part of this flight simulator. If you're new to flight simming or just interested in this new product that they've come up with, and have never really been a flight simmer before, let me know if you're interested, because I will be doing tutorials for absolute beginners. So I need to know how many of you are going to be buying this and are absolute beginners, because I can make videos for you, simple tutorials that you can actually understand for a change. So anyway, that's enough about my plug. Next up, and the last one, is Immersion. Now, why do I have Immersion there, I wonder? Well, what is Immersion? Well, oddly enough, psychologists in recent years have discovered that playing certain computer titles can be very relaxing. Kind of like meditating, because they take your mind off everything else, don't they? So what does Immersion mean? Well, it means that you're engrossed in something. And I feel it's all to do with the atmosphere. In this case, you're flying. You've got the graphics. Between the graphics, the weather engine, the world, the sound, and everything around it, you'll be completely engrossed in what you're doing. So I hope that the atmosphere or the immersion that pulls you in to this title will be very, very high, if you like. Now, as well as Immersion. Now, here's an example for you. I was playing a flight simulator when I first started, and I was sitting there, and it was like 11 o'clock in the morning, and I got a phone call, and all of a sudden it was 4 o'clock. I was immersed, I can tell you. I was very immersed. So immersion is very important. But not only that, VR. Where's VR for Microsoft? They have mentioned they're going to look into it. They're mentioned they've put it on a priority, but I don't think VR will be out for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 when it comes out, when it's released this time. I think it'll be down the line, purely because VR, and I have a VR headset, I have a Pimax, it's very heavy in your computer. So much so I had to upgrade my graphics card to a 2080 Ti for it to be smooth enough. But because the graphics are so intense and there's so much technology crammed into our PCs, I don't know if at the moment headsets will handle it, or maybe Microsoft will come up with some magic 6 months down the line. Either way, Microsoft 2020 is looking to be a very immersive flight simulation indeed. So keep watching this space. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more on Microsoft 2020 Flight Simulator with me, GripperSim, every week. And we'll see almost every week. I missed 1 or 2 weeks. I'm trying to learn stuff. Look it, I'll see you next week, so don't forget to fly it like you stole it.